And welcome back to Straight Talk. We're back in studio discussing, again, off camera and on camera, some of the issues that we're starting the new year off. And one of the big ones was, of course, the bridge.
Yeah.
Before we went to break, that's what we were talking about. And, in my opinion, a lot of it is that, that I think a lot of these stories come out because this one and that one, and it has to do with like power, money, and the fact that how much money is actually being spent on the repairing of a bridge that should have happened 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And like the whole bureaucracy not really working here. And everybody's pointing fingers at everybody else, and they're really trying to discredit a lot of times. I think that being Mohawk and having that iron worker history in Ganawage, and I think they're trying to discredit. I don't know who it is exactly or how, but there's just little stories that get.
Well, I think it kind of goes back and forth, and it doesn't do anybody any justice. No. But I mean, it's as a journalist who's covered this story since the very first announcement a couple of years ago, right? We were all sitting at David Onizakta, and everybody was so united, and it was a great project. And, when I covered that story, I mean, I remember all of the main players that were sitting there at the original press conference, and then to see how things have played out in the last couple of years. I mean, it's really something to understand as a journalist, to see where we started and where we're ending up right now. And, I've covered it. I've talked to a lot of the men on both sides. And people are really staunch in their positions. They're very passionate about why they feel the way that they do, union versus non-union. And then it became about ownership and money and, yes, tradition and permits and jurisdiction. And then, when you put all of that into, everyone has their own opinion on things. Right. And then you you try to come to some kind of consensus. I mean, what you're seeing is all the fallout of all of that. You know what I mean?
Right. And a lot of it just serves to, like I said, discredit one side or the other.
Yeah.
It's caused me to, look at Transport Quebec. How many times have they been under the gun? Not just because of the Mercier Bridge, but because of like falling overpasses. Things like that. Yeah. Mercier Bridge is like part and parcel with what they're doing right now. So.
Well, that's what was, after reading that story in the Gazette, I knew there was some sort of, underlying issues that, that has been going on in Ganawage, but, I never really, have an interest in it. But as, an average person, it just makes me think, well, is this bridge really safe? Again, just further questioning it, and,
Yeah. I mean, there is a lot of bureaucracy, and I think that at the end of the day, I mean, the general public just wants a bridge that is going to be safe and fixed, and one that, we can go across safely and not have all this traffic.
Every other day.
Yeah.
What happened just before the holidays.
Yeah.
Or was it just during the holidays, wasn't it? They closed the bridge down. It was supposed to be one lane in each direction, so they were closing the southbound side to work on those gusset plates, I guess, or do some emergency work. I don't remember exactly. But they closed down one side, and they were supposed to have traffic going in both directions. But because that day was so windy, they weren't able to put up their pylons in between. Over the summertime, they had the permanent ones, so that was okay. But what happened is over the winter, they had to take them down for snow removal purposes. So they tried to put up these pylons, and they just kept getting blown over. So they said, well, the heck with it, we're just going to close down the whole side.
So you had to go by the Champlain Bridge to return.
Yeah, so there's no access, right, for a good, an entire day? Or?
An entire day. Entire day. They reopened at 11 o'clock at night.
Wow.
So and I remember myself, I use public transit all the time, and I was waiting 45 minutes, and that day was blistery cold out. It's probably it was blistery cold out, and I was waiting for the bus. 45 minutes, the bus driver comes, he goes, sorry, he goes, I'm not going over the Mercier Bridge. He goes, I'll drop you off in Chattagee, just like what we were doing in the summertime. So it would have taken me an hour and a half or something to get to.
So what did you do? Did you go, or did you just say?
Yeah,
okay,
I said no,
thanks.
forget it.
Yeah.
Forget it.
Yeah.
I don't understand why, we live in Quebec, we have wind, we have cold, ice, heat, traffic, why don't they have, these, plans in place for something like this?
Contingency plans.
Why is it always, we don't know what to do. Close down the bridge. Like,
well, I don't know. Maybe there was obviously some safety concern about, you know, the wind and things like that. I just think it was probably in everybody's best interest that it was closed, I'm sure. But at the same time, yes, it's very inconvenient. But anyways,
there was a lot of people that were stuck on the other side.
Yes, I mean,
because there was no way to come back.
Inconvenient. It just, you know.
And so you have to go to the Champlain Bridge, which is also like...
Yeah. Falling down? No.
Yeah. But it should have let us know, like, some kind of, in some way. I had no idea.
Yeah.
And this was like, it wasn't 9 o'clock in the morning.
No,
This was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon when I finally found out.
I remember that. I know a lot of the press releases that come out from the Mohawk Council are maybe there's a slight delay. Transport Quebec will send them out, but I mean, you know, when you look at all the media and the community, you know, if you're broadcasting daily like K103 or you know what I mean, then you'll be able to get those hits if you're listening to K103, you know what I mean. So if you're a follower of the Eastern Door and Mohawk TV, then you know that, you know, as we update daily, like a lot of times we're gonna miss those you know those programming updates in the evening. So. But I think, you know, all in all with this bridge, I just hope that there's going to be some sort of, you know, resolve at the end of the day. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of bureaucracy in the community. And I'm going to take the opportunity to kind of segue into something else at this point. It's 2012, and speaking of, you know, politics and bureaucracy, we're now in an official election year. And I always think that the beginning of the year kind of starts out kind of slowly. You kind of start hearing who's going to be running for the Mohawk Council of Kahnawake elections. And then by spring, you're going to gain momentum and who's not going to be running. Yes, I mean, I haven't heard anything official. All I've heard is rumors at this point of who may not be running again. I know I do have it on good authority that there will be an opponent for Grand Chief this year, without letting the cat out of the bag, because obviously I don't want to make a statement without there being some sort of official release. But I do have been told by the person that they will be running for Grand Chief, which I thought was, you know, was interesting. And, you know, are people looking for change this year? I just can't wait to start covering it. I mean, as a reporter and, you know, Mohawk TV, we're always, you know, we've covered the last how many elections in 10 years we've been on air, so.
The previous election, it was like one of my first years being like in this whole like media industry in Kahnawake, and it was so exciting. And it was also the first year I was actually able to vote anyway. So.
Yeah, because you're only 21, so
yeah. I don't know. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, it's promising to always, as always, be interesting at the very least.
As veterans here, we've covered elections a long time.
It's like, yeah, it's old hat.
We've seen everything from, I mean, every election year there is something. Every year, guaranteed, there's going to be some kind of controversy. But we're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to wrap that up. We'll get back in a few minutes. We'll talk a little bit more about this and then say our goodbyes. So don't go away.